Hi there, welcome to John's Thoughts. I'm John, these are my thoughts on Psychonauts. See what I did there? I made it rhyme, just cut to the intro. So before I start this, I want to preface by talking about the current state of franchise fatigue, which is still coming, I promise. I was aiming to have it done by the end of this week, but as I had already posted on my Facebook page and Twitter, I'm still kind of recovering from a cold of some kind. Kind of just hit me earlier in the week, and I was unable to record to the quality that you all deserve, so the episode won't be out this week, but everything else is still progressing. It's just filming on this particular episode will be delayed a bit. So anyway, Psychonauts, for those of you unaware, is a video game from back in the mid-2000s. I don't remember the exact year, but it's a third-person platformer developed by Double Fine and is one of my favorite games of all time. There's a lot in the game to love. Gameplay, the design of the world, the design of the levels, the mechanics, the story, the humor. It's just all of it's fantastic, but there's a specific aspect about it that I wanted to talk about. Its view and presentation of mental illness, which is an interesting topic, kind of hot button topic for some people because it affects a lot of people. I have friends who have dealt with it on either a severe or more mild level. I've dealt with it on a mild level, dealing with depression and social anxieties, things like that. It's a very real thing. Psychonauts is a game that has a very interesting representation of it as a character who goes into the minds of other people, specifically people who deal with mental illness, going into the mind of a paranoid former security guard, a failing actress who is dealing with manic depression, a former wrestler dealing with, anger issues, or people dealing with inferiority complexes or multiple personalities, but not in a way that's necessarily very heavy. It has a very overall optimistic and jovial sense about itself and doesn't take itself super seriously while still paying respect to what people with those illnesses deal with. What's really interesting to me about the way the game paints mental illness is that the people who deal with it aren't necessarily bad people, even though they might do bad things. And it's something that didn't really occur to me until the end of the game, which, spoilers, I'm going to go into. You go into the mind of the main villain of the whole story, Coach Oleander, who has this big plot to take over the world with brain tanks, and it's this whole ridiculous sci-fi concept. You go into his mind, and in it you find a younger version of himself deal with the fear that he has of his own father, his relationship to these cute little bunnies, and all this very, very weird concepts, but they play to a very human thing of dealing with abuse and dealing with feeling weak and inferior. And the game paints Coach Oleander as not an evil dude who just wants to take over the world. He is a man battling his own demons, and he's very insecure, and he is trying to compensate for that with this big scheme, but deep down he's not a horrible person. He's just kind of a broken man. You go in there and you sort out those demons. You help him deal with that inferiority, and you help him deal with his fears, and you help him combat them. And in the end, he kind of turns face and just kind of and becomes the good man he was deep down. His plan is thwarted, but he's not tossed into jail or said, "I'll get you next time." He apologizes. He comes forward, and it's a little bit clean cut and a little bit wow, that was just you're just gonna forget that he kidnapped kids and stole their brains. You can say that, but in this kind of highly technicolor world that they've built, it makes it fits better into the narrative. And at the end, the message is that these people that are supposed villains that you have to deal with are they're not bad people. It's not just unchecked evil. It's about these broken people that have to heal, and Raz helps them heal. I mean, in a rather physical way, but that isn't applicable to real life, obviously. In the scope of this game and the tone it creates and the intended audience, because this is kind of more of a family game, even though it deals with these more adult themes. These are games that kids can play. It's a very healthy and positive light on a very what could be a dark and more twisted topic, and it's just very important that this game exists and that it has that viewpoint and it presents that viewpoint to people, and kind of gives us a better understanding of how mental illness works, and how no matter how far gone people might be, there's always that hope to pull them back. And I think that's an important thought process. And maybe it's, maybe you could argue like it's more complicated than that. And it is, but for the game that Psychonauts is, and it could have just been, a platformer that just touched on those themes and didn't really do much with it. But what it does end up doing with it is actually quite impressive and quite emotionally resonant, and it makes sense. And I really appreciate the game for doing that and for presenting that viewpoint. It's very unique, and very few games, if any, have touched it at any point. So I feel it's important to talk about and praise that aspect of it. To me, that is one of the reasons why Psychonauts is my favorite game of all time. And if you haven't played it, I highly suggest you do, even though I probably just spoiled it for you. But still, there's so much more cool stuff about it that I didn't get a chance to talk about. And it's on Steam right now for $10. If I'm sure plenty of you have Steam and you're interested in it, go play it. And if you have played it and you haven't played it in a while, play it again, because it's definitely worth your time. It's one of my favorites, and I absolutely love it. I want to thank you all for watching again. I'm really glad to keep doing these John's Thoughts videos, these kind of vlog videos. It's just kind of me just sharing my thoughts and stuff, and I hope you guys like it and continue to support it. And I want to thank you all for watching. Follow me on Twitter and on my Facebook page. You'll be able to see any updates on where Franchise Fatigue is. Also, before I sign off, I am currently working on bringing the Infamous Films podcast back, hopefully with at least semi-permanent co-host. So I will keep you guys updated on that as well. Also, be sure to share your thoughts down in the comments on the topics I discuss here, because that's always fun. Thanks for watching, guys. See you next time.